Apollo 8 Squids. During the first manned spaceflight to the moon, Apollo 8, the crew took over 1,000 pictures of their journey to the moon's orbit and back. In a few of these photos, a strange, tentacled squid-like object could be seen, close to Earth. The object is relatively pale, with the brightness having to be increased to view it clearly. People who noticed this anomaly were quick to dub it the Space Squid, or the Apollo 8 Squid. Several theories were put forward by those who believed in the existence of alien life. Some people claimed that the squid was a living being, which had defied all odds and had evolved in the vacuum of space, creating a new life form native to outer space. Others claimed that this was in fact an alien spacecraft, far more advanced than anything humans could conjure up, with the tentacles being energy beams from its advanced propulsion systems, while others claimed that the strange squid-like object was only the trail left behind by said spacecraft, similar to contrails left by planes. The fact that this strange anomaly was present in at least 3 photos of the Apollo mission, looking different in each one, pointed to a far more mundane explanation. The space squid or squids was actually just a film artifact that had appeared during the development stage of the films. It appeared to be a static electricity discharge that had caused this strange pattern on these photos. This is also consistent with other examples of static electricity discharge on other film photos. Project A119. Project A119 was a top-secret government project with the purpose of detonating a nuclear warhead on the moon. The goal was to cause a nuclear explosion on the surface of the moon that could be seen from Earth. This was intended as a show of power by the United States, showcasing the US's military, technological, and space travel capabilities to its adversaries, while also boosting the morale of the American people, and renewing their confidence in the US's space capabilities. The plan was to attach a warhead which would be launched by a missile toward the dark side of the moon. The resulting dust cloud would be lit by the sun, and thus be visible from Earth. The project was cancelled in 1959 over fears of risk to population if anything went wrong with the launch, alongside a fear of risk to future space travel and lunar exploration. The Soviet Union also had a similar project planned, Project E4, which also intended to detonate a nuclear warhead on the moon, but was cancelled for similar reasons. Apollo 20. In 2007, several videos were uploaded to YouTube by the channel Retired AFB. These videos claimed to be leaked confidential footage from the top-secret Apollo 20 mission. The owner of the channel claimed that he was an astronaut by the name of William Rudelech, who had been a commander in the secret Apollo 20 mission, despite Apollo 17 being the last official Apollo mission, with further missions being scrapped due to budget cuts and lack of public interest. Rudelech claimed that Apollo 18, 19, and 20 took place but in secret. Their main purpose was to investigate alien structures that had been photographed in prior Apollo missions on the dark side of the moon. The videos uploaded on Retired AFB's channel show the crew of the Apollo 20 mission photographing an ancient alien city on the dark side of the moon and encountering a gigantic, ancient crashed alien spacecraft that was 1.5 billion years old. As they explore the spacecraft, they encounter the body of a mummified alien which they name Mona Lisa. The alien is discovered to be in a state of suspended animation and is brought back to Earth, where it's kept by NASA at a secret secure location. Despite the high quality of some of the videos, and the additional supplemental information like interviews and journal entries, many people were skeptical of the authenticity of these videos, with many debunking them, since a lot of the footage had been composites, or videos from previous official Apollo missions. Eventually, French sculptor and artist Thierry Spech came out and claimed responsibility for creating the videos, which he claimed he had created as part of a sci-fi film he had planned. He provided even more proof of the hoax by displaying the sculpture he had created of the alien woman, Mona Lisa. Thierry claimed that he had created the videos using a combination of composite images from previous Apollo missions, CGI, and practical effects. Thierry also wrote a book by the name of Apollo 20, which detailed the whole fictional story of the mission. Despite that, some people still believe in the authenticity of these videos, claiming that Thierry was a red herring put forth by NASA to distract people from the Apollo 20 mission and the existence of alien life. In the event of moon disaster. In the event of moon disaster was a statement composed by the president's speechwriter, William Safire, on July 18, 1969. The speech was meant to be read by then-President Richard Nixon, in the event that the Apollo 11 astronauts had died on the moon, or become stranded and were unable to return. Discovery of Dyson spheres. Dyson spheres are large megastructures theorized by physicist Freeman Dyson. Dyson theorized that a civilization that is technologically advanced enough would harvest huge amounts of energy directly from their parent star by enveloping it in a shell made up of solar panel satellites that orbited it. These would serve to utilize as much of the star's energy as possible. This structure would then heat up, dissipating increased amount of waste, infrared heat radiation into space. Therefore, an efficient method to search for advanced alien life would be to scan the galaxy for signs of these waste infrared radiation emissions produced by Dyson spheres. This is exactly what Project Feist attempted to do on June of this year. Scientists participating in the project used data from several satellites and telescopes that recorded infrared signatures. They looked through data from stars less than 1,000 light years from Earth. In the end, the sample size of 5 million stars were filtered, and 7 likely candidates were found. These 7 stars displayed unusual infrared signatures that could not be easily explained using natural means. The researchers provided the possibility that these stars might contain Dyson spheres, but were quick to also point out that this is simply a possibility, and the unusual infrared emissions could still be later explained by other natural means. The zoo theory. The Fermi paradox is the clear discrepancy between the high probability of the existence of intelligent life and the absence of conclusive evidence of the presence of any intelligent life beyond Earth. If the possibility of the development of intelligent life exists no matter how minuscule, the unfathomable size of the universe ensures that it must exist in other places. One answer to this paradox is the zoo hypothesis, which was proposed in 1973 by John A. Ball. The hypothesis claims that highly advanced alien life intentionally avoids contact with Earth, so as not to interfere with its natural development, similar to how humans might interact with a zoo. This is done to enable the human race to develop on its own, without any outside interference, and to minimize the risk to humans and the advanced civilizations themselves. Highly advanced civilizations are theorized to mask any detectable evidence of their existence from humanity, using means far more advanced than we can detect. It's also hypothesized that contact with these otherworldly advanced life forms would be initiated only when humanity reaches a certain checkpoint, whether technological, political, or ethical. Another theory is that they might withhold contact until humanity forces contact upon them by, for example, sending a spacecraft to a potentially inhabited planet. The prison planet theory. Proposed by American ecologist Dr. Ellis Silver, the prison planet theory claims that humans didn't originate from Earth, but were actually exiled to this planet tens of thousands of years ago. Ellis points to the fact that humans are an intrinsically violent species, stating that this might be the cause for an alien race or a federation of alien races to banish humans to this remote planet away from the rest of intelligent life. This could be either done as a punishment for our race, or to help us develop into more morally superior beings, naturally on this planet. Ellis's alleged proof for this theory is mankind being ill-suited for life on this planet, thus pointing to the fact that we must have evolved on a different planet, and were actually brought here. Ellis claims that mankind is supposedly the most highly developed species on the planet, yet is surprisingly unsuited and ill-equipped for Earth's environment. Harmed by sunlight, a strong dislike for naturally occurring raw foods, ridiculously high rates of chronic disease, and more. Several variants of this theory other than the one proposed by Ellis exist. Claims as to reason of imprisonment range from a crime committed by our ancestors, which might be the origin of the story of the Garden of Eden, which in this case would be more of an allegorical story of the crime our ancestors committed to be banished to Earth. Other theories claim that we are imprisoned here by a malevolent alien race, which either uses us as slaves to harvest resources from this planet, or uses us as lab rats to experiment on. While another more bizarre theory claims that we are kept on this planet by an alien race, so that they can harvest our souls for some unknown purpose. Angels in space. On July 1984, the crew on board the Soviet space station Salyut 7 experienced something unexplainable. On the 155th day of their mission, the space station was suddenly bathed in an orange light, so powerful that it bled through the opaque walls of the space station and momentarily blinded the crew. When their vision returned, They looked out of the portholes in search of the source of the light, and saw 7 angels hovering in space. Their faces and bodies were human, but they were 80 feet tall, and had mist-like halos floating above their heads, and gigantic wings, with a wingspan comparable to that of a commercial airliner. The angels appeared to be smiling, as they followed the spacecraft for 10 minutes before disappearing. All the crew reported seeing these angels. 12 days later, the crew was joined by 3 more cosmonauts from the Soyuz T-12 spacecraft. Once again, the station was enveloped in an orange light, and the angels appeared once more, and were also seen by the 3 new cosmonauts. This incident was allegedly deemed top secret, with the crew being warned not to speak of it, but leaked documents allegedly provided us with this story. Despite this story being circulated in various publications and on the web, no official sources linked to the astronauts themselves or showcasing these alleged leaked documents exist. The Cosmic Whisper. This story was told by an anonymous narrator who claims to have been a Russian cosmonaut. The cosmonaut, only identified in this story as Cosmonaut X, claimed that he was aboard a Soviet spacecraft, flying over the southern hemisphere, accompanied by a colleague. Suddenly, out of nowhere, both cosmonauts felt a piercing gaze staring at them from behind, and felt the presence of another person next to them. Spinning around, they found no one else. Suddenly, Cosmonaut X felt a voice whispering to him from inside his head. The voice claimed that it was his ancestor from his mother's side, his great-grandfather. To confirm that fact, the voice told him about certain private details about his family that no one else outside the family would know. The voice then proceeded to warn him, telling him that he had arrived in space too early, and that he had arrived in the wrong fashion. The voice then advised him to go back to Earth, claiming that he shouldn't be here as this violated the laws of the Creator. X's colleague reported hearing a similar message, but worded differently. Both cosmonauts experienced the whispers a second time, with similar messages as before. They were at a loss of what to do. They thought of reporting this incident to their superiors, but were afraid of being dismissed on the grounds of being mentally unfit, and so decided to keep the incidents a secret. They theorized that the whispers could have actually originated from alien life forms that had telepathically communicated with them, masquerading as their ancestors, to discourage mankind's exploration of space. They also contemplated the theory that these voices might in fact be their ancestors, warning them about humanity breaking the natural laws of creation by exploring space. Cosmonaut X also claims that they were not the first, nor were the last cosmonauts to experience these strange cosmic whispers, and points to several cosmonauts who reported these incidents to their superiors, but were later dismissed for being mentally unfit. With regards to this story, the most probable conclusion is that it's a hoax or urban legend, since no official records speak of this strange phenomenon, alongside the fact that no cosmonaut had ever mentioned it. Messages in the CMB. In a paper written by physicists Anthony Z and Steve Su, an entirely theoretical speculation was proposed. What if the creator of the universe encoded a message within the cosmic microwave background? The CMB is the residual radiation left over from the creation of the Big Bang. It's a faint remnant of the light that has traveled 380,000 years after the Big Bang, and is on the spectrum of non-visible light. It displays as mostly microwave radiation, and fills the entire observable universe as we know it. For these reasons, both physicists claim that this would be the perfect place for a creator to leave an encoded message to the universe's occupants, assuming one exists. In addition to the facts that CMB can be detected by technological civilizations such as ours, that the CMB can be observed from almost anywhere in the observable universe, and that it would be identical to all observers no matter their location, makes it a perfect billboard for a creator to leave their message. The message might be encoded in many forms, but the main proposition was binary. Despite the claims by the two physicists, other scientists were quick to point out the flaws in their reasoning. Firstly, the CMB might not be exactly identical from every vantage point in the universe, and might change depending on the location it's observed from. This would make it extremely difficult for a unified message to be encoded within. That would be the same for every civilization observing it from different locations. Secondly, the CMB is very slowly cooling, and would eventually become undetectable. Still, it would take an incredibly long amount of time for the CMB to become undetectable. But this still poses the problem of the message not being available to civilizations in the distant future. Despite all these problems with this theory, astrophysicist Michael Hipke still attempted to try and search for this theoretical message encoded in the CMB. He translated the temperature variations from the CMB, obtained from results from the Planck satellite and Wilkinson probe, into binary, creating a stream of binary that, when translated, was completely random and didn't point to any underlying pattern. He concluded that there was no hidden message in the CMB. Despite that, many are still optimistic that an encoded message is hidden from the creator, but encoded using a different method, or one we are still not advanced enough to understand. The true nature of the moon. The moon has been a subject of speculation in many conspiracy theories for ages, due to its seemingly unusual nature. Most of the theories concerning the moon speculate about its true purpose or its hidden nature, claiming that it's not a naturally occurring satellite orbiting Earth, but might be in reality a number of different things. One such theory claims that the moon is a hologram. Evidence for this is suggested in the fact that the moon does not rotate, but is always facing the Earth in the same direction, along with a lack of surface details that can be seen from Earth, and its strange, seemingly artificial glow and almost two-dimensional appearance. Proponents of this theory claim that the hologram could have been erected by an alien civilization for some reason, or an extremely advanced ancient civilization in an attempt to light up the night sky. Some people also link this theory to the simulation theory, claiming that the moon and sky above are either holograms or digitally rendered to simulate the appearance of space and a wider cosmos. Another theory about the true nature of the moon is the hollow moon theory. This theory posits that the moon is in fact hollow and might serve as an alien space station or control station. According to this, aliens have erected this structure and placed it in orbit to Earth for a variety of reasons, from surveillance of the human race, which might tie into the prison planet theory, or even as a control center, using the moon to control waves, storms, the weather, and more. The Great Moon Hoax of 1835. On August 25, 1835, the New York newspaper The Sun published the first in a series of 6 articles about the discovery of life on the moon. The discoveries were falsely attributed to Sir John Herschel, a real English astronomer who had traveled to South Africa. The Sun claimed that these discoveries were mainly reprinted from the Edinburgh Journal of Science, which had in actuality stopped publication years prior. The articles described how John Herschel had created an immense telescope with a gigantic lens. It was erected in an observatory in Cape Town, and using the newest in technology, it was able to clearly view the surface of the moon, as if it were viewed from a mere 100 yards away. The articles then go on to describe how, using this incredibly powerful telescope, Herschel was able to observe the moon's surface clearly, reporting the presence of vegetation, along with rivers, trees, beaches, mountains, and even living creatures. Some of these lunar creatures were similar to those on Earth, such as bison, single-horned goats, and mini zebras. Others were more fantastical in nature, such as unicorns, and bipedal tailless beavers that carried their young in their arms like humans. The most outrageous claim by the article, though, was the discovery of bat-like winged humanoids who formed communities and built temple-like structures on the moon. Eventually, the articles ended with the observatory and telescope burning down, after the lens had concentrated the heat of the sun and acted as a burning lamp. This put an end to these fantastical lunar discoveries. When it was first published, this 6-part series allegedly increased the sales of the Sun newspaper dramatically, placing it ahead of competitors. Many people were quick to believe the hoax, with a few remaining skeptical and attempting to disprove it. As the real John Herschel was away in South Africa, it was incredibly difficult to reach him to confirm the claims in this story. Despite that, several newspapers issued rebuttals of the story, and on September 16th of 1835, almost a month later, The Sun admitted that the articles were fabricated, written by journalist Richard Adams Locke. NASA captures image of heaven. This hoax has been circulated on the internet and re-emerges again every once in a while. The claim is that in 1994, after repairing the Hubble telescope, NASA accidentally focused the telescope on a giant cluster at the edge of the universe, capturing photographs of a vast white city floating in space. The story then goes that NASA sources confirm that this city is most definitely heaven, since life could not exist in the icy vacuum of space, and therefore the souls of the dead are the only viable citizens of the city. NASA then allegedly covered up all the news of this discovery, but these photos were eventually leaked. Despite the photos being clearly faked, This claim makes the rounds every once in a while, shared mostly on religious websites and forums. This story had actually originated from Weekly World News, a satirical publication known for its outlandish claims and stories. Cosmonaut Stories. There exist many urban legends and fantastical stories concerning cosmonauts in particular. These stories are reported in UFO publications and other paranormal websites, with almost no verifiable evidence. One such story claims that a Russian cosmonaut, who had spent 6 months on board the Mir space station, claimed that he and his partner experienced strange visions, in which they felt like they were gradually turning into other creatures. Sometimes it felt like they were turning into other people, while at other times, it felt like they were turning into animals, or even alien creatures. Another story, this one attributed to cosmonaut Georgy Greshko, reported him seeing a gigantic figure over Mongolia that was visible from space, while a second alleged experience by Greshko sees him observing and photographing strange huge letters that were visible on the Falkland Islands from his orbital station in space. Another strange story claims that cosmonaut Vladimir Lyakov, looking down on Earth from a spaceship, saw 2 gigantic waves ascending from the Indian Ocean and crashing into each other, forming a gigantic mountain of water that disappeared in an instant. This same phenomenon was also claimed to have been observed by Vladimir Kovalyunok, who claimed to have seen a similar gigantic pillar of over 100 kilometers in height in the Timor Sea near Australia. Voyager 1 is sentient. The Voyager 1 space probe was launched by NASA on September 5, 1977, to study the furthest reaches of our solar system. As of 2024, it is the furthest man-made object from Earth, 15.5 billion miles away from Earth, as of December 2024. It still maintains communications with Earth and is able to receive commands, while also sending data of its own. Voyager 1's signals were mostly consistent until May 2022, when it began sending strange incomprehensible data back to NASA. The problem was eventually fixed, but on November 14, 2023, the Voyager 1's communications malfunctioned again, also sending unreadable data, which consisted of a continuous thread of repetitive code. These malfunctions gave rise to many conspiracy theories, such as interference from extraterrestrials, or the Voyager 1 seemingly gaining sentience. One such theory, mentioned in this meme, suggests that Voyager 1 is transmitting gibberish due to it going insane in space. According to this theory, NASA was able to transfer the human consciousness of a volunteer astronaut onto the golden disk carried by the probe. The theory states that this was done either using highly advanced top-secret technology, arcane knowledge, or a combination of both. The theory then goes on to state that the human psyche was not meant to experience the vast depth and emptiness of space, and therefore must have gone crazy in the process, causing the communication errors experienced by the probe. Sunspot activity correlates with historical warfare. The sun, like almost any other star, goes through solar cycles. Every 11 years on average, the sun experiences periods of solar minimum, where sunspot activity is at its minimum, and periods of solar maximum, where sunspot activity is exponentially increased. During this period, the increased number of sunspots appearing on the sun causes frequent bursts of radiation from the sun to the Earth, in the form of solar flares and coronal mass ejections. These in turn cause solar storms, and cause visual phenomena like auroras, along with more negative effects, like the disruption of power grids and interference with technology. This theory states that this is not the only thing that increased sunspot activity is responsible for. The theory argues that this increased solar activity is responsible for affecting the psyche of human beings on Earth, making them more violent, and therefore resulting in a higher incidence of violent upheavals, like revolutions and wars. To further support this theory, a chart is made from 1750, when the first documented solar cycle was observed, till present day, documenting several wars and revolutions that took place along with periods of solar maxima, beginning from the American and French Revolution, all of which are correlated with periods of solar maxima. Despite the fact that these correlations mostly line up, there are numerous problems with this theory. Firstly, correlation does not equal causation. The fact that several wars could be lined up with the alleged causative factor of heightened sunspot activity does not mean that this is the cause, especially with the presence of more complex factors. Secondly, due to the wide history of warfare and upheaval throughout humanity's existence, there is no shortage of wars and revolutions to pull from almost every year. which can be lined up accurately with almost any factor to imply causation.